Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Pruitt. Hope you're doing well. Unbelievable as always. It's time to build upon the tutorial for the folks trying to get started in the world of After Effects. Again, this series is based on people that are absolute beginners, not any of you folks that are a little more advanced. This is more so for the folks that are trying to just, get their feet wet and figure out what's going on with this huge application known as Adobe After Effects. That's what this is. I appreciate you folks popping in and checking this out. My channel deals particularly more with how to get people set up and squared away with just creating better digital content. So if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to subscribe. Okay, so I'm recording this at a little different time than I normally do. There's a lot of noise going on around me between somebody's downstairs doing dishes and things like that. I think a visitor has just popped up, but I really want to get my video recorded and done so I can get back to watching football. But at the same time, I didn't want to put you guys off for football, so it is what it is. I'm sorry. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Building off of the previous 3 videos, we talked about using layers, we talked about smooth animations, we talked about menus and so forth inside of After Effects. Today, I want to talk about using text and the built-in animations that are already right there within After Effects. And it's just more a little bit of trial and error as far as some of the things that you would like or dislike as far as how you can animate your text. When it comes to using the keyframes and whatnot inside of these animations, we're still going to do a lot of the principles from the previous videos where we talked about using easy ease and making those animations a lot smoother. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just open up After Effects and get started on chapter 4. All right. Okay, so here you see our previous composition and project, where we worked on the last 3 chapters. There's chapter 3. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and create chapter 4 as a composition. So I'm going to go up here to my composition menu, hit new composition, and I'm going to call it chapter 4 because that's obvious. Okay, and we're going to make this a 1080p resolution project or composition, and I'm going to keep it at 30 frames per second, and we'll run it at roughly 10 seconds. Okay, don't need to be much longer than that for what we're going to do. Background, we'll just keep the background black for now. It's okay, and we'll just click OK. So now we have our new chapter 4 composition, and we're going to start out by adding a simple text layer. To add some simple text, just go up to this little T menu here at the top, or you can just press Control T to pull up your text menu. So what I'm going to do is just click right here in the middle of my video, and I'm going to start typing something. I have my caps lock on because it's just a habit for on-screen text. So I'm going to put we'll say dominate, because that's the first thing that comes to my head. All right, and I'm going to take off the caps lock, because if I don't turn off the caps lock, I'm going to get an error message that doesn't allow the screen to refresh. I'll just show you that here. So I want to change my font by going over here to my character menu, and I'm going to use Babus New because that's my favoriteest font of all. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to make this text a little bit larger. We'll say about 160 or so, something like that. And then we're going to align it using the align tool. So we'll click on align it to the center there and align it there. Now you notice the screen didn't refresh. That's because refresh disable with the caps lock on. Turn off your caps lock, Ant. Done. All right, so now I have my text in the middle of the screen. So go on over to your layers panel over here and twirl down on that text layer. You'll notice a little animate button right here. Click on that. It's going to give you a few more properties, and these properties are going to look fairly familiar to the things that we've discussed in the past. Now remember, in the past, rewinding a little bit, when you clicked on the layer panel here and clicked on your layer, if you hit P, it brought up position, because that means we want to move this around on the screen. Okay, so if I hit P again, it's going to go away. But if I twirl down here, I'm going to get an animate button, and I get position again. This is not quite the same, okay? This is going to be dealing more so along with the actual characters of your layer, not necessarily the full layer itself, okay? So when you're dealing with that animate menu, think about on a more meta level, if you will, when it comes to your layer. Does that make sense? Okay, we'll move on. You'll see the difference. So I'm going to click P or click position there, and I'm going to get a little drop down option. All right. So the first thing I want to work with is moving this from, we'll say from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen. All right. So I'm going to move my playhead down a few frames. We'll move it down to about 2 seconds. And I want to say that's where I want the word dominate to stop on the screen, right there in the center. So what we do, we just add a little keyframe. So click on the stopwatch, and we now have a keyframe on our timeline. Go back in time, and now let's change that position by moving it down to the bottom. I didn't mean to move it sideways. I want to move it down to the bottom, something like that. Okay, that's done. So now we have a keyframe at the bottom, keyframe for when it gets to the top. If I hit spacebar and play, it moves up. Ain't that something special? No, it's not. That's pretty boring. So let's change this up. Let's make this a little bit better. Inside of your animator options on your layer, you have a bunch of different things that you can play with, and it's called the range selector. Check this out. So range selector has all of this start, end, and offset and whatnot, and then you have even more under this advanced tab. All right, so you twirl down at it on that advanced tab, take a look at this shape layer. We're going to change that from square to ramp up, something like that. Now notice what happened on the screen. So if I put it at square, it puts it back down. If I put it on ramp up, totally changes that. All right, so now if I was to play ahead, it just sort of gradually ramps up like that. That's looking a little more interesting, but it's still somewhat blah on there. All right, so let's put that back. And we're also going to take a look at the offset here. So let's take this offset and we're going to put a keyframe on it right there. And then we're going to turn it down to say -100. Okay. So now that it's -100, it looks a lot better on the screen, but we still want that effect. So let's go over to our ending keyframe and we're going to reset that value on the offset so it's back to its default. So hopefully we'll get a little more of a, smooth scroll up. So it looks like it's waved at us as it came up. And you notice the difference between this and the regular position is it's doing it for every character. Okay. That's pretty slick. And if you want to add some easy ease onto this, you can. So, just highlight them all like that. Hit F9 on your keyboard. And it's a little bit better. And if you want to play with the graph editor, we've already talked about this before. You just click here for your graph editor. So turn that off. Go back, hit play again. There we go. That's a little bit better. All right, so that's how you work with using a ramp inside of your position property for moving your text around on your screen. It's pretty simple. You can add that to any other little application that comes to your mind. I have another idea that we can use with this, but I'll share a little bit more on that at the end of this video. Trust me, it's not too hard, but it'll look a lot better. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to take this dominate text and I will just hide it for now. Okay. And then I'm going to add a new text layer. So again, I will do Control T and I will type onto the screen. So let's go with something else. Let's go with, I don't know, let's say, do the dadgum work, exclamation point. There. All right. And then we're going to change the text, change the font of this text. I can't talk today. So we're going to go over here to our character menu. I'm going to change this to Lato because that's another font that I like, and we'll use medium, something like that. We'll make this a little bit smaller, not that way, right there. Make that a little bit smaller like that. We'll align it. No, I don't want to align it. Whoops, undo. I want to just move this myself. I want to move this over here like that. So now we're going to fade in this particular line of text. Nothing to it. That's just an opacity property that we need to mess with. We've done that before, but it's going to be slightly different this time. So we'll go to our layer panel here, look for that layer, do the work, twirl that down. And again, we're going to go back to our animate button, click on that. I'm going to select opacity. All right, after we select opacity, let's find a point where we want it to be 100% on our timeline here. So let's go with, I'll say a little over 2 seconds. So we'll make that 100%, put a keyframe on it. I'm gonna drag it back to the very beginning, make that 0 opacity. So boom, we got it fading in on the screen. Yay, again, another boring animation. But let's randomize this a little bit. All right, so under your range selector again, twirl that down, okay? And then you have the advanced options yet again. And we got the shape option. So yet again, we're not gonna do the square, we're gonna do ramp up, okay? And then we have what we call ease high and ease low. We're going to play around with those values, but we're also going to play around with the offset values. Okay. All of this starting to sound a little bit familiar because it seems like we just did this on the position transitions in animation. All right. So back to ease high. Let's make that say roughly, I don't know, we'll say 30, something like that. Ease low, we'll make that 50. Okay. And then on this randomizer line, okay, we will change that to on. All right. And then we'll jump on over here to the very beginning of our playhead. And for the offset, we're going to change that to -100. If I can type that in, will be just great. There, we got that. And then we'll push this on out a little bit more. Well, actually, I need to keyframe it there. And then we'll push this on out about halfway through or so, and then change that back to reset. So it's back to its default settings. Okay. So now let's play this through. And you get just a different fade there. Notice it's fading a little more right here in this D, and as you go a little further down the timeline, different letters are fading in. Everything is not fading in together, okay? Now to fix that to look a little more to your liking, play around with these ease high values and the ease low values. You can even play around with the offset just far as, you know, how you can move that transition around. Like that. And keep the randomizer as it is. And I'm gonna say maybe 70, like that. See how that goes. All right, but I think what will make this look a little bit better is to add another property to it, and that's the blur. So we just click this add button over here, property, blur, and we'll make that say maybe, I don't know, we'll say 15%, something like that. So now it'll look a little more dramatic, like that. Okay. I'll make that 10. That's probably too much. So let's make it 10. So that offset, let's make that offset more so to 100% instead of 0, like that. Now let's see how that transitions over. Much better. Slow it down a little bit. Much better. And again, if you want, take those keyframes, move them out some, like that. Hit F9 on your keyboard to give them some easy ease. Play it again. A lot better. I dig that. All right, so that's another simple one, just using a randomized fade in of your text or a line of text or what have you. If you want, you can even go around and change the font within a line of text. So just go back to your text tool and click on your text layer And if I want to change the font of dadgum, I just highlight dadgum. I can make it bold like that. If I just want to make it something all totally different, we'll say courier, I could do that, but that's a little boring. Let's go back to Babus. We could do that. Okay, and you can even change the color of it if you want. So let's change this to say red. All right, so now let's hit home and then play that back. Totally different effect and total different look. Not bad. Okay, let's move on to our last little tip with animating your text. And this one is a little bit different. I like to think of this one as something that you could use when you're showing off like a product or something and you want motion with your text. We've already talked about the 3D aspect of your text. This isn't going to be 3D, but it's still going to allow you to do a lot of movement and manipulation based on your own imagination. Okay, so let's go ahead and collapse all of this text from earlier. So here are our previous two layers. We got the dominate layer, we got the do the dadgum work layer, but now we're going to add a new text layer. So let's say new text layer like that, or just go up to this menu, hit text, and I'm going to start typing right about here, and we'll say move something. And of course I don't want this in red, so I'm going to change that color, change it back to, haven't done anything in orange, like that. Okay, we'll say move something. All right, and then we'll change the actual font typeface or what have you. Let's go with impact, like that. Okay, so now we have this bit of text and we're going to do something different. We want this to move around on our screen and not necessarily move up and down or left and right. We want this to be totally dynamic. And the way you do that is you create a path for your text to move on the screen. Okay, let me show you. You just grab your pen tool up here at the top, and I think you press G. Yeah, G is the shortcut. So you grab your pen tool and you can start drawing a path right here on your screen. If it's not totally on the screen, it's okay, because it's still just going to give you a path. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to draw a line like that. Then I'm going to draw a line like here, but I'm going to make it curve a little bit. Draw another one right there, make it curve like that. Keep curving. I want this to loop a little bit using the good old pen tool like that. Let's see if I can make this loop work like that, like that. And then I want it to go off the screen. That should work. That looks like a total mess on my screen, but it's okay. Trust me, it'll work. At least I hope it does. So click off of your pen tool and just use your move tool or press V on your keyboard. And let's go back to our layer here where it says move something. Twirl that down, click on animate. We're going to go with position again. All right. And let's look at an additional option that we have here. This time we have path options to work with. So let's twirl down path options. You have that path menu. Select your mask, which is the path that you just drew. And you notice it actually moved it onto this line that we drew on the screen. Okay, so now since we're at the beginning of our timeline, let's move this let's move this text off of the screen like so and make it keyframeable. Okay, so now we'll move ahead a little bit in time, say something like that. Okay, and then we're going to move it again. Let's see, what about right about there? Okay, but I want it to stay there for a second, so I'm going to move ahead again. Notice the keyframe stayed there. I'm gonna move it ahead to up to about 4 seconds. And I'm gonna put one more keyframe at the same position. And I'm gonna tell it to move off of the screen as it ends the timeline run. So I'm gonna move it all the way down to here. And then I'm gonna change the position by pushing it forward all the way off like so. All right, but that's not gonna look great because I didn't ease it, but I'll show it to you anyway. So I'll hit play, comes in, stops, moves on around, and goes off the screen. This will look a lot better if we put some easy ease on it. So we're going to highlight these two middle keyframes here because that's where it stops and pauses or what have you. I'm going to hit F9. All right, so that's going to give it a little bit of easing onto the screen. And then we'll hit home and hit spacebar to play it through. And it's going to render one more time. Pause. And it ease out. Okay. It's a little slow. We can speed that up. So to speed it up, go to this last keyframe, move it a little bit closer. Okay, let's render that again. Stop. Go again and get off the screen. Still a little slow. Let's move it in a little closer. Pull this playhead back, let her rip. Pause and zip on through. Still needs to push that off the screen a little bit. So I'm gonna push that off a little bit more. And I'm gonna open up the graph editor one more time. Click right here on position. Click on that. And we'll make that speed up some more like that. Turn off the graph editor, press home, render it. Pause, ease out and speed up through it. Much better. Boom. So that one's done. Not too bad. Just make sure you have your keyframe squared away and all of your values are just right. And just, you know, make it work for whatever the flow of your video is. So that was the last one, but I did say there was a bonus one that I wanted to show you. So let's go back to After Effects. I'm going to turn off that move something layer. So let's go ahead and pull all of this stuff up, and I'll turn off this do some work stuff too. We'll just work with this dominate layer. Now you remember all we did with this one was we just started at the bottom, hit play, and it moved up and had a little ramping animation to it. A good trick when you're doing stuff like that is to make text reveal onto the screen. And what you want to do is put your text within a mask. And to create a mask, you just go on up to your pen tool or hit G on your keyboard and just draw a mask around it, or you can use one of your shape tools. I'm used to using the pen tool, so I'll just draw one freehand. Most of the time I don't necessarily need to be that precise. So I'll just click on over here, and this is going to create a new shape layer. So I'll do that, and that. All right, so I know that looks weird because it totally masked out and covered up my text right there. No big deal. Okay, we can work with this. Click on your layer panel and select your text. Hit U to pull up your keyframes, and I want to move back to that last keyframe where we know it's going to be revealed. So that's going to be our marker. Okay, so with this shape layer, we want to do what's called track matte with this thing. So what we want to do first of all is move our shape layer right above the text that we're working with. So in this case, we want it right above the dominate layer. And then you want to look at these track matte options here. That's what T matte stands for, or track matte stands for. If you don't see that, just hit this button here that says toggle and switches, and that'll bring it back. Okay, so on your dominate layer, under the track matte options, select the alpha matte and then select shape 1. All right, so when you click that, nothing is really showing up there. It's okay. But then when we go back in time, it hides it. Okay, See, now it's gone. See, if I turn this layer on, you'll see that we have this whole red visibility because that's what we drew earlier. But when you turn it into an alpha matte, it turns that off, but it still makes it, you know, a usable object in your video space there. So now when I play forward, this is going to reveal like it came from behind a wall or something. So let's just play it forward and it just comes up from behind the mask. So there you have it. That is a track matte. Get used to using track mattes in your After Effects projects, because you'll want to do a lot of different logo reveals or text reveals and things like that. And it's a little more pleasing to the eye. All right, folks, that is it. I am done with chapter 4. I hope you've enjoyed this particular tutorial, and I hope you're able to go back and catch up on lessons 1, 2, and 3, and just, you know, continue to try to put everything together to help understand the fundamentals of this application known as Adobe After Effects. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscribe buttons, and check out all the other content that is here on my channel. I really appreciate the support. I try my best to answer all the comments at the bottom as best I can. If I don't know the answer, I'll point you to the right direction to somebody that has that answer, because I don't know everything. All right, so thank you folks for watching. I will catch you all on the next video. Get on out there and create and dominate.